Sacred Valley. That's right. Alright, so always look at the comp first. It's a roughly similar comp. They're slightly lighter than you are, which is usually an advantage to you. On encounter mode, you still actually want to be able to win this north side, but they have a huge advantage, so it's usually best if you play through this middle area here. Like one thing that you can do with the 1390, like normally you can spot through this middle to see what they do. What you want to be able to do is spot by subtraction, essentially. So what I'll generally do is I'll try to spot through the middle here and see how many they send south, and then pretty much whoever they don't send south, I kind of presume that they send north. You can go up on this hill in this particular, like I always recommend that you don't go up on the hill in standard mode on this map, but on encounter mode you can if you want. It's not bad because it's close to the team goal. You have to be careful because you have to watch your team over here, because your team can, again, because they start out with such advantageous terrain over here, it's difficult for teams to push out into the side, depending on what their team does, of course. And then you can just sit up, like on this little hill right here, just sit up there and you can spot them coming across for the most part, because you'll have better camo than them. You can just sit someplace where you can be innocuous. Nice shot. You didn't have to take that shot though. I'm surprised you didn't get lit, but either maybe you don't have Sixth Sense, or no, it looks like you have Sixth Sense, but you don't necessarily, like, sometimes the best thing that you could do is just inhibit people from crossing that bridge. And so preventing people from driving up here in and of itself is a good thing. And see how they've got this B line and this C line? That's good for them, but see how far back your guys are? That's actually technically good for where they're at, because if they got caught further up, then they could get caught in the flank. You're pushing forward pretty aggressively, which is okay. It's not bad. You're actually more concerned about artillery at this point, because most of their tanks are on the north. They do have some guys in the center, but your guys aren't putting much pressure from the other side. You look at where your team is. Most of your team, or a good portion of your team, is on the south, and a lot of those guys can't help you. Like, see where, like, that Tiger 1's been lit this whole time, but nobody's shooting that Tiger 1, right? So you have to be cognizant of that. You're losing on the north pretty quickly. So you're past the Tiger at this point, so you might as well just try to see if you can find the artillery. Like, you should have stayed in that ditch there where the Tiger couldn't have seen you, and you could have driven forward down over here. I think it's over on that side. That's fine. So your guys are pushing around now. You don't really have shots where you're at. It's going to be difficult, because see how that bridge is blocking most of your shots. So really, unless those guys drive more north, you're not going to really have shots. But eventually the Tiger is going to reposition to get shots on your guys, in theory.
It's a trap!
So you're basically allowing your tier 8 light tank, which basically has a tier 9 weight, get pinned in by a tier 7 Tiger. So that's not the best thing to do. And the other thing is about the 1390s. It's not a very good sniper because of the gun.
It's a trap!
But that worked. Also the WZ-132, which you should have saw because he was lit even when he was passing the Tiger. But he's not in a position where he can chase you, so you can just duck down. But still, you're not really in a position to do a whole lot, right? So you might as well leave and go back. Like, your guys are going to die over on this east side pretty soon. These guys in the middle are okay for the moment, although it looks like they're going to get flanked by that Lorraine. And so you're not even loaded there, so I'm not entirely sure what you felt like you should be doing there. Just take that shot on the artillery. Like, your guys in the middle are going to die. There's nothing that you can do there. The best thing that you could have done to try to save them is take out that artillery. And you could have tried to take out that artillery from that range. And then don't rush your shots. Like, this looks like a bug or something because you're firing where the reticle isn't. But that Lorraine artillery is still up, right? And you're taking kind of bad shots on this WZ-132. You have the speed where you can just turn around and leave if you wanted. And so that Lorraine is going to try to come and get you. Which is okay, it's not that big of a deal because you're actually slightly faster than him. You don't want to pin yourself in here though. Like that Lorraine artillery is not that big of a deal at the moment. But see, notice how like when you're clipping, you're absolutely useless. You're like not helping your team at all. You're not giving them any eyes, you're not giving them any sort of support at all. You're just clipping, like that's it. And it should be a thing where as soon as you're clipped, you should be shooting something. Like you're clipped right now. And now you're looking for something to shoot. Like you knew where that Lorraine 40T is, right? And you also know that the Lorraine has fired at least a few of his shots. So you can get shots on this guy, right? And so what you want to do is you want to draw this guy into the Tiger 2's fire. You don't want to use the Tiger 2 as bait. You want the Lorraine to try to chase you down. You don't know what the clip status on this guy is. But you do know that you need to do things, because that Tiger is going to get shot in the ass. And so right now, one of two things is happening. You're either letting the Lorraine reload while you're reloaded, or you're letting the Tiger 2 die because of a flank. One of the two will most definitely happen. So it's always better to do something rather than nothing if you're loaded. Because what's the alternative to what you're doing? There's no bad things for you poking out and seeing if the Lorraine is loaded, right? But there's if you allow him to reload and then push, like he's like you didn't even get a single shot there, and then now everybody's dead.
It's a trap!
And then most likely he is loaded. He did some interesting shots at range. He missed one, and he used at least one on the Tiger. He missed two, used one on the Tiger. He's clipping. Or maybe not. Maybe he's just bad. And then now all you want to do is just run away. Just use your speed and literally just run someplace. Any place. Either north or south. And they're on the cap, but that's not that big of a deal. It looks like they're coming through the cap, so that was probably like the IS-3. Oh no, come on.
It's a trap.
And that's fine. You can pseudo chase this guy, but you're not going to be loaded in time. Like if that IS-2 is coming back through this line, you kind of have to be careful. And then he's got his back to you. There's no need to rush that shot. I mean, he's letting you kill him. And then you need to be careful with that reload there. But again, drive forward, just turn to the right, otherwise you're going to give the IS-2 a free shot on you. He already missed once, but that's fine. And then you probably want to turn to the left and hook back through the B line, because that's going to, if anything, they're going to have guys on the south. So what you want to be able to do is catch that IS-2 someplace where he's got to cross an open space where you can get at least one free shot, ideally to the side, or the IS. You kind of don't want to run into the IS-3 if at all possible, just because of the gun that you have. You want to try to find a good situation. Oh, you definitely don't want to stop there. Oh my god! You like stop there in front of everybody's gun to shoot that guy with a relatively low percentage shot. Lol. Keep running, just keep running, keep running. And then probably go under the bridge. You don't want to force any confrontations now because you're one shot. And you want to be careful driving up through here because you can get lit by those guys over there.
It's a trap!
Oh. And remember, the biggest threat to you right now is still the IS-2. because he's like got 800 health or whatever. But at this point, you don't really have a whole lot of choice. Try to go find him on the B line, see if you can circle him. He's probably going to be in like E4-ish by now. And then you can go, I would go that way. There's no reason for you to cut to the B line at this point because you don't know that there's any tanks out there. And you do know that they are on cap, so you want to start being able to clear out. Because all you need to do to reset cap is be in that like E4-ish area. And the IS or somewhat, one of those other tanks will probably get on cap eventually because they're going to figure out that you're a much faster tank than them. Yeah. Okay, see, there's where you should have stopped. Because see how he was headed the other way from you? That's where you should have stopped and taken a shot. And then it just kept going. Interestingly, he didn't light you. So you know where he is. So a lot of times when people go on the cap, they like to hide behind the rock here. Since they only have one on the cap, that means that one of those guys probably chased you back underneath. So that's going to give you opportunities where if you get up here, you'll be able to shoot into the back of this guy over there. You just have to do it carefully. They have two on cap, the IS and the T-34. That's still fine. You want to shoot the IS first. You want to avoid knocking over trees as well. You can spot the cap from up here as well. Pretty much you can go to the same rock that you were at, that I pointed out earlier. This one right here. That's all you really need to do. You're in a light tank. What you want to do is minimize how close you get. They're on the opposite side of the rock from what I would have expected. You should be able to get the IS. Well, take your time. Take your time. There you go. Let me make sure. And then just run away.
It's a trap!
Just run away. There was... I mean, I guess you can argue that you could reload for APCR there, but if you were going to reload for APCR, you should have done that in the last clip. Because you're basically now waiting. And then, so since you're clipping right now, you should leave. You should go someplace completely different. The IS-2 is going to be coming back down. So you always want to change your position as much as possible if you have time, right? This is an encounter, so you've got plenty of time. No, you actually have enough ammo to kill them all. You just need to make your shots count. And you need to not destroy things. And this is not a good place. Like where you're at, this is not profitable for you. And see how he's hiding behind the rock? Because he knows the general area that you're at. Because you didn't reposition. So all you have to do is just reposition to like that H78 area. I mean, ideally you would reposition to the F6 area, but you don't really have time to do that anymore. And then all you have to do is just reset the T-34-1 once, and then you can reevaluate what you want to do. See, like where you're going now, it's kind of fruitless, right? You've squandered a little bit too much time. So now you created a situation where you basically have to expose yourself way too much. And for what? Like, you gained nothing from driving around, basically. This is going to be very difficult because it's going to be down a hill. Well, there was no reason you could have fully aimed it. Yeah. So again, just wasting too much time. So you gotta have that internal timer. No, like the fact that you reloaded there, okay, that's fine. I could see reloading there when there's encounter and you know there's only one on cap. But what you want to do is you want to completely relocate, because otherwise they're basically just shielding themselves from your general position. If you'd driven around on this side right here, you could have gotten a free shot on the side of the T-34-1 and then run away. And it's somewhat predictable per se. You know, it's kind of like rock paper scissors. There's always a hard counter. Like if they think that you're gonna go over here, they can hard counter by sending the IS-2 over there. But more often than not, puppies don't think that. And it's just if you relocate, you'll get a good shot, and then you relocate, and then you get a good shot, sort of thing. But yeah, it's just at the end there, you wasted too much time. Like you had the pacing correct up until then, but once you reloaded, you just kind of sat around. And so early in the game, you made what I consider some mistakes where you were kind of like when you came down here and there was the Tiger 1 and that stock WZ 132 or 131 or whatever it was. You know, you basically allowed those guys to pin you in, and you weren't really doing anything useful. You weren't really damaging anything. Yeah, you eventually got this Indian Panzer that was over here, but that wasn't really high percentage shots given the distance that you're shooting with the gun that you're shooting, with the ammo that you're shooting. So you want to try to find situations, and then the other thing is that when you were in their base, you basically let your Tiger 2 die to that Lorraine, when the Lorraine was probably clipping. And it would have been worthwhile for you to find out if he was or not. But instead, what ended up happening is that you allowed him to kill the Tiger 2. And then when you know that he had a clip, you knew absolutely 100% that he still had, 5 shots, 4 shots, whatever it was. That's when you pushed him. So if you're willing to push him at that point when it's 1-on-4, why wouldn't you push him when you still have a chance? That's my only criticism of that decision. You just sat there and waited. You were loaded. He was in a vulnerable position where he could not run away from you, right? Because he was in that little ditch. So you would have been able to get, if he was reloading, you would have been able to clip on him fairly easily. Right. And so these are the stats. And that's the sort of the tough thing about being on that east spawn on the encounter version of the map is usually the east spawn guys who head north just get stomped because they have a terrain advantage. And as long as their team is smart enough to send enough guys north and they have enough people to just hold the cap on the south, then I think the west side has an advantage here. But not bad. You actually had pretty good shot efficiency for the shots that you were taking, so you can't complain about that too much. Although some of them were relatively lucky, like the pen on the IS-3 at the end, where you inexplicably stopped where 4 tanks could shoot you. That was kind of a lucky pen. But it's nice that you penned the Indian Panzer where he was, but whether that was lucky or not was I don't think that was a guaranteed pen for that range using the shells that you were using at the time. But GG. I mean, nice try. Just try to keep your puppies alive would be my best recommendation. Oh man, and then now we're into the wins already. People don't lose games anymore. So we'll go over these wins, and I'll typically try to be a little bit more critical of decisions that are made. And so the reason why you watch wins is not to brag, although I'm sure that's probably why some people submit them. The idea is that even a close win, if you make better decisions, a close game could be easily turned into an easy game. It's like, okay, well, we got a comfortable win here. And so I think that when you evaluate your own replays, win or lose, or when you just sort of at the end of a game mentally go over what happened during that game, whether it was good or bad, you should try to remember what you could have done better, or think about what you could have done better, because I think that ultimately makes you a better player. It's not just looking at the losses, but be critical in wins. Alright, Fiery Salient. Prokhorovka clone. I actually like Prokhorovka. It's like one of my favorite maps because it typically it's really open gameplay, so it's about vision control and being able to actually shoot tanks, particularly at range. You have pretty similar comps. Both of your teams have things that can surf, but you don't really have artillery. So when there's no artillery but surfers, there's a lot of places that you can set up, particularly in a medium. I like going to the C1 area if you think that people are going to surf. Otherwise, you can play like the 6-line hole. You can go hill, but I don't necessarily do that. Usually, enough puppies push hill that it's not a problem. All you need is somebody up there to prevent them from just literally driving over. But it's important to see what happens with where your team actually goes. And so when there's no artillery, you can actually poke here a little bit, as long as you're not lit. You don't want to poke up there when you are lit. Oh my gosh! Shaky hands, shaky hands. That happens. I always tried, because so you know that that tank needed to go back down over the bridge, so you could have aimed to the left. You also know that he's aggressively poking, so at this point it's not really that good for you to keep pushing up. Just wait for him to crest. Put your gun on the horizon, wait for him to crest, and he'll drive right through your reticle. I mean, that's his MO in this game so far.
It's a trap!
So what you want to do is avoid getting lit, because you can get shot down from that H1 area. You don't really have anybody on the 1 line, so that's something to keep an eye on. The MT-25 just went east. There he is! Very good job. So again, that's why, like, so we call these things fingers. See how there's like little hills here. You always want to be on the inside of one. You never want to be on the highest part of it, because people are going to shoot you, particularly from that west side. And then where that 1375 is, we call that the bowl. That's always a bad place to be in the early game. You don't want to be there early game, just because people from the zone line essentially can shoot down into you. And then this is kind of a precarious finger that you're in right now, because in order to get any good shots from this finger, you kind of have to expose yourself, which is not good. Which is why normally you'll play one of the other fingers, either the one on the 6 line or the one on the 3 line. And then see how these guys are lit on the hill. If you're over here on the 6 line, you could be shooting them right now. That's back of the turret, so you can have the RU-251 just rolled down into the little crevice below, so that's not a problem. Looks like they both did. It's fine. The other T-54 might still be up there. You're relatively safe where you're at. Shoot that other guy. And it looks like he's going to slide down too, so you're not really going to get any more good shots on this side. Look to your right. Look at this guy that keeps coming over on your horizon. And it looks like, see how they're pushing that 1-2 line? So what you do now is when you want to get over to this sort of 2-3 area. And you still have to be careful, because you can get shot from down there, but most of their gunpowder is going to be aiming down here, so it's just peek up, get a shot. You won't get a shot in the IS-3, but you can get a shot in the FCM. And then pull down. And then all you're trying to do is just slow these guys down. You don't need to drive anywhere. You don't need to drive. You could stay right where you're at. You're only going to get shots on the FCM. So, and see how you're tracing him? All you have to do is sit lower on this hill and just wait for him to drive across your reticle. And it's the same thing. The shots are going to get easier as they move further north. And what you want to do is you want to prevent them from getting all the way up north, because once they start getting to the far north, to like that B line, that's when they're going to start having good shots on you.
It's a trap!
fine. They've got that object on the 6th line, but that's not too much of a concern. That was an unfortunate shot. But it happens. This guy seems willing to trade with you, so shoot him in the face until he learns otherwise. This IS-3 pushed underneath. So you've got 3 guys approaching you right now, and you've got a 704 behind you. So that's, but you have your team behind you as well. Your platoon mates are behind you. So let them deal with the 704. These guys are shooting your teammates in the back though, so you want to be able to get them. There's a Challenger up there, but I wouldn't worry too much about the Challenger. You're more worried about this. Like if you can get another shot on this T-34, what you want to be able to do is get them down to 1 shot so that they're afraid to push. And you want to be careful here because that IS-3 could potentially shoot you. Okay, good job. The 704 is behind, so like this T-54 needs to keep that guy honest. And that's fine. But so the Challenger was headed east, probably up into this finger, so he's probably going to try to get shots on your buddy over on that side with the 704. Although it looks like your guy's pushing the 704, which is potentially good.
It's a trap!
So at this point, see how these guys are backed off? They're not really a problem. You should be over here helping your buddy. Like, he should have told you he was pushing, but see how he's basically getting swarmed now? And that's the thing, I see that a lot in platoons where people don't actually help each other out. And it's quite unfortunate. You should push this Challenger. So you need to clear off this side. So you need to get that Challenger down before the 704 gets into a position where he can shoot you.
It's a trap!
Well, this will be interesting.
Frag hit. We've lost a frag. We're stuck here. Bail out. This vehicle has had it.
Lol. Yeah, so I really felt like instead of pushing this way, you could have pushed the other way towards the Challenger, and it would have been, you would have been in less of a crossfire. Like, you could have gotten into this bowl. And the nice thing about the bowl, like I said, it's not a good place to be in the early game. But in the mid to late game, you know, there's almost nobody ever up here anymore. So taking the bowl is actually somewhat useful. Particularly if you lose this flank on this, like, 5-6 line, right? There's a couple of places you can go. You can go down here, right, and use this hill to basically cover you, especially since you're in a tank with gun detection. Or you can just go into the bowl, and you're always relatively safe in the bowl. Go, Tiger 1! The circling Tiger. You should really switch to his tank so that you can see this. I think the 704 has a dead driver or something, because that was not a good radius turn. Anyhow, obviously you win this, but so the point being is that particularly when you're in a slower medium, but one with relatively good soft stats. I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of dispersion, and it's got pretty good gun depression. You want to look to exploit that. So just when you play these fingers, practice being in position. Like, there were a couple times where you were on this part of the hill, which really exposes you, and I think you took a 400 damage shot from down here someplace from who knows what. And so you have to be careful with doing that. And one of the ways that you can avoid that is to actually play in this 6 line over here, because they don't quite have draw to get over there, all the way over here, unless they move really far up, which they won't do in the early game. And then that MT25, like, identify patterns that people have, that if they keep going over the same area and if they keep overexposing themselves, just set up and wait for them and then shoot them. It's really all there is to it, especially when there's no artillery, there's no there's nothing which prevents you from sitting deeper down in these pockets, which is more protected from direct fire, and just waiting for somebody that you know is going to poke over. It's different if you're not sure, or if they're being crafty, right? Then you have to take different risks. But if they're being silly, then just wait for them and shoot them, because that's one less tank that's going to be spotting you, and then that makes it easier for you to shoot everything else. But the other reason why you typically will try to play in this lane or in this lane is because if they push the hill, like where your T-54 was at, he got pretty good shots. You eventually got over there. You took some reasonable shots. They didn't hit. Just, you know, it's bad RNG from that range. But you want to be able to shoot up into that area to support these guys and make sure that they can win if you can. And it's the same thing if you play this from the south. You know, if they try to push across, you need to be in the 6th line to prevent them. And that's typical gameplay for pub matches, you know, on Prokhorovka. And so if we look at the stats, it's good. Look at that Tiger 1 doing work. 16 of 29, not that great, but considering he was probably in the back for most of it, that's fine. 22, 17 and 22, that's not bad. I mean, a lot of them were close range. The other thing that I would recommend is make sure that you actually work with your platoon mates. It'll make it a lot easier for you. But GG. Good game on the mastery. Alright, I'm not sure if this one's going to be good or not, but we will watch it. It's another Prokhorovka game. That was at least an entertaining, fiery Salient game to watch, so thank you. Alright, so this is actually pretty much the exact same situation from the other side. No artillery. You have people who can spot, who can surf potentially. I would almost always play the 6th line or the 1 line to start for this. Normally I would play the 6th line because a lot of times you go to the 1 line and you don't actually get good spotters. They've got a pretty campy team. You can also do that first run if you wanted, if your team doesn't do it. Like I would just drive literally straight up the 6th line and see if you can spot like the JPEs crossing over here. Most likely these 3 JPEs, my guess would be, well, all 3 of them will camp over on this 1-2 line. So your WZ is driving up, and he may or may not spot, but if he doesn't, then you can do a quick loop. Just you remember that all you really want to do is just stick the edge of your turret over, and that's, you can detect their team. So see how the path that he's taking, he's going to cut too shallow. He caught the STA.
It's a trap!
Look at that Leo armor. And that's fine, and you can hang out there. I try not to hang out too high in the Leo here because they can push tanks through there really easily, and because the Leo doesn't have armor, they can just shoot right through your turret. Yeah, I like being right here because that allows you to shoot the hill. You've got guys going to the hill, but it still keeps you protected from them just poking over and shooting you in the face, which is always nice. And you can get shots here. You kind of have to be careful though because it's really easy to get shot from back there. And we kind of presume that that's where the JPEs are. And then see where this IS-3 is lit? Your guys on the hill can shoot him really easily, so as long as you or somebody keeps him lit, your guys on the hill should get great shots on him. And then see how your guys here, I mean, you did a good job, but like your T-57 is poking a little bit too much, your T-54 was poking a little bit too much, and that was getting them shot a bit.
It's a trap!
Oh my gosh, you have shots on the T-34, it's probably better. Like your T-57 was YOLOing, there wasn't going to be anything that you could do to save them. And you'll probably be able to get another shot on that IS-3 as well, if you wanted. Well, I don't know, okay, yeah, maybe not. And again, that M103 is in a bad spot because your guys on the hill can shoot him pretty easily. So as long as that M103 is lit, you might want to shoot down that house. Yeah. That was a retarget issue. So like when you target manually going around a rock like that, the game has an issue with doing that. Like if you went around that rock in sniper mode, like you went around and then you snapped into sniper mode, if you went around in sniper mode, the gun doesn't pop up as much. Like see how you went there, like the gun like stayed level. But that's always been a problem in this game when you take corners in third person mode. And you want to get lower at this point. See how they're pushing down that 1-2 line? You can be in a position where you can counter that. That guy's in the bowl, but he's really not that much of a threat. Their M103 is still not in a good spot. See how your guys are moving down to this 6 line? So all you really want to be able to do is like, see where their 140 is? If you just light their 140, your guys from that A6 area they're gonna be able to just completely rip them up. You should obviously concern yourself more with the E100 at this point, but once this guy is done, and he should be done pretty soon because you've got a tank destroyer and you've got other things on that line. And this guy is not the most adept of players. Oh, shoot him in the engine deck! You absolutely should have shot him in the engine there because he was turning away from you. You should still shoot him in the engine. Okay, side turret is fine.
It's a trap!
He really does not want to shoot the Leo. He's like, I will shoot anybody but a Leo. And see how their 140 had to bail because he had too much pressure coming from the backside. And then so now what you should actually do is get into this next finger over here. I guess you could play it either way. Like, see where you're... Somebody needs to keep these guys honest, otherwise they're gonna just start blapping your dudes over here. From that range, he's not going to spot you. See, but now you see you have too many cooks, not enough busboys. You know, somebody needs to do the dirty work to do the lighting. This 1390 is actually doing a good job. So, at this point, you've got enough cooks, I suppose. For some reason, their tank destroyers are trying to push across at you guys. For some reason, like you still need to spot this guy in the bowl. Like anybody could be over in this area. Cause see now that see where their light tank is. Like you want to prevent their light tank from essentially doing the same. Where he's spotting for them. Of course, their light tank is just YOLOing, which is fantastic. That's perfect. Although your light tank is also YOLOing down that side.
It's a trap!
But yeah, as long as you get shots, if you can kill the LTTB, that's actually your best bet. Because see how he's moving towards your 1390? You want to be able to get him before he gets to your 1390. Because you presume right now your 1390 is not lit. So like maybe 1 or 2 shots before then. And then hopefully your 1390 doesn't get popped there, otherwise... let's say they're chasing him. Unfortunately, he did get him. And then see, this guy's getting pushed down here. He may or may not win that, but you should probably turn around and see if you can get that JPE. Because that JPE is going to be high on the hill, and if you're back where like that 907 is, you should have shots. Apparently not even that far. Lol. He's face hugging the JPE. He's like, I can take this. Oh, good. He went around to the side. Good for him. And then just be careful not to shoot your teammate there. Like, your 907 almost did. And then it's fine. It's the same thing. You could play this area right here to spot these guys. You just want to be anywhere on the south side. Depends on how far their T-30 moves south. But the problem is that none of you guys played like the 4 line, so you don't really know where that guy is. I mean, he's not that mobile, so he probably didn't move very far. And like there, you could argue that the 907 should be playing passive because he's one shot. But given the fact that, you know, like basically that SCB also one shot to the JPE, you're the only one who can actually literally take a hit from anybody on their team. So that's something to keep in mind. And so I think there's a misconception of how armor works in this game. Health is armor as well, and you should consider your health pool as part of your armor. Sometimes you need to use it. Sometimes you need to fully aim. Yeah, you want to be careful because that tortoise is presumably still relatively high on that side. And see how you've basically got a bunch of people on this side now, but your fire support is left over here. So see, where this guy went was good because he's going to be able to spot from over there, although he should actually be over here. He'll actually have better eyes from over there. And then you need somebody down here who can actually deal damage, though, especially because when he lights, most likely he'll get lit in return. Turrets break, and then you can shoot them in the side. Like where you're at right now is... lol, tortoise pushing across an open field. And then again, it's a situation where you'll probably get better shots where that 5100 is than where you are. And then going across here is just going to get you spotted by the other one. Presumably, he's a little bit further back than this one. Or he's just sitting out over there. You want to be careful. Like, you're shooting through a bush right now, but he might be able to see the back of your tank. On the other hand, you can also take a shot if you wanted. Oh, looks like there's another tree. Oh, looks like there wasn't enough of a tree. Oh, somebody's gonna get shot in the face. Oh, maybe. Why are you sitting there? I guess it worked. So anyways, that's you just used up your armor. But yeah, so that's, you know, when I say health is armor, like you can push a lane if you need to. Like I don't think that was a necessary need for you to use your armor there, but at this point in the game you've got it won anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But now, like, you can't push. Now everybody's one shot. It's not gonna make a difference because you just have so many guys. But lol, landed on the roof. So yeah. So anyways, I thought you did a pretty good job when you were over here, but you didn't really do anything too dynamic. The game kind of rolled your way because a lot of their tanks basically one at a time in different little distinct packs, you know, they pushed into you, and that basically allowed you to get some good shots, like that E100 that was going down here, and then, you know, the Taurus that was going across, the JPE that was going down here. You know, there were a lot of shots, and it seemed like your platoon mates were doing more work than you were. Somebody's got to deal the damage, you know, I get that, and that's fine, but particularly like at that end when that 907 was, you know, one shot to every single one of their tanks. This guy was one shot to the JPEs. You could have taken a position where they could have done the shooting, because presumably they have guns on their tanks as well, and they're competent at using it. And that way, if there's a mistake, if there's an accident, your platoon mates don't get killed. Like this, if this guy accidentally got shot by JPE, he's dead. If you accidentally get shot by JPE, that's all right. You know, you're gonna live. And that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that sort of mid-game play. Look at what your platoon mates' health are at, and make sure that you send the right tanks to do the right jobs. And like, I don't remember. I think it was the STB that was over here. The STB probably should have stayed over there, right? And then the 907 should have played this area right here where you ended up, and then you should have gone over to light for both of them. Is probably the ideal configuration for that. Alright, and so if we look at the stats, where did my stats go? There we go. 8k damage, can't sniff too much at that. That is excellent. 22 of 38. It sounds probably worse than it is. I mean, that's not a very good shot efficiency, but they had a lot of tank destroyers that you had to kind of shoot from kind of crappy angles. For the most part, I thought you did fine. That E100 was going to die no matter what. And then it's just a matter of keeping your platoon mates alive. But GG.
It's a trap!
It was an entertaining turkey shoot. Yeah, I mean, I'll do wins. I mean, I again, like I said, I think you can pick up things from wins if you want to. You know, I think if you are willing to be critical of yourself in wins or losses, then that's fine. I think it's easier to look at close losses from the replay review perspective, because it's easier to point at single things and say, okay, well, this could have changed the flow of a specific loss and changed it into a win. But you know, as we've said many times, the other thing that we're looking for is that, you know, even in a close win, there's sometimes where there's games that come down to a wire and you just barely eke out a win. But it's really a lot of times when you go back and you look at those games, there's situations earlier in the game where you could have kept teammates alive, which potentially could have changed a close game that you won to an easy game to win, right? It gives you more breathing room. And I think a lot of that is overlooked when people, you know, just go, oh, look at this, you know, I did 15k damage. You know, it's like, okay, that's fine, but you know, you have to, I think if you look at those games with a critical eye, you go, okay, well, the reason why I needed to do 15k damage is because I allowed XYZ to die. Alright, so last one from this set in the Type 64. This one's on Pearl River. Oops, this is not the right one, sorry. And yeah, I said I was going to review that for somebody in the who messaged me in the forums, who I see is in the stream right now. But I'll review that personally, and I'll email you, or I'll forum message you back that later. So anyways, Type 64 on Pearl River. This is the highest matchmaking that you, or the lowest matchmaking, whatever you want to call it, that you can get is into a Tier 7 game. Pretty much the same comps, more or less. So one of the things that you can do, particularly from this north spawn, is head over into this B8 area, and that gives you an idea of what they're sending in here. All you got to do is just drive up onto this little hill, poke over, and you can see what they send here, and that gives your guys an idea of what to send. I think a lot of times light tanks go through here, and you can do that, but it's a little bit dangerous. Usually it's better to go back through here because you want to see what they send up here, but you can almost do that exact same thing by going to this B8 area, and I think you get some more useful information for your heavies. Okay, looks like you have elected to go south. I don't really like going south. I don't think it's a very good play for light tanks, just because it ends up being a bunch of alleys where you can get caught really easily and pushed. And that's one of the things when you're in a light tank, you really want to avoid situations where where you sort of overextend just a little bit and people are able to just push in and bully you. You want to try to avoid that if you can. And then, so watch what your team is doing. See how this Cromwell's pushing down, this Type 58's following him. So you should be up there a little bit more. You don't have to be on the front edge, right? Because for all you know, he could turn this corner and the rest of their team could be right there. Looks like they send a lot of people to the middle. They got 3485. You're too far. You're never going to get shots where you're at. Like, you will never, ever get shots. Because there's literally like 2 more curves before you get back there. And so you can shoot that Stug and that's fine, but just keep in mind that Stug is not shooting your teammates. And then see how they have more tanks than this Type 58 and you are going to be able to deal with. So it's almost always better to go back and go someplace where you can do something useful. And you almost never want to be behind another tank like this. You want to be peeking out over on the other side of the rock or something like that. Particularly in a light tank, because all you're going to do is just draw fire, or something that's meant for him is going to end up hitting you. This guy's cutting in through the back. It's probably not that big of a deal, but you should probably head over there just in case. It looks like he's going to go up through this side and then go towards your cap. So right now you have to think about what you're doing. Are you really going to sit here and hold these guys if they push? No, you're not. If those guys do a concerted push, you're both going to die. You know that this guy is going to head into your base. He's going to kill your artillery, so it's probably better if you focus on that.
It's a trap!
Take your time. Make sure you kill that Wolverine. Okay. And then I would drive over here so you're more artillery safe. So the artillery just missed you. Shoot the guy. Shoot the 3485. 3485 was giving you side. And so basically right now what you're doing is you're poking against medium tanks and tank destroyers in your light tank. That you always want to avoid that. That's almost never a good exchange. This 2801 is cleaning up through the back of your base. You're better off dealing with him.
It's a trap!
You're gonna get like tagged by artillery. Lol, the fires are real.
It's a trap!
And then push forward there so you don't get hit by artillery. And then just stop right there. Now 2801 is still wreaking havoc in your backfield. And then see how these guys got split? So there's somebody behind them now. You can also get over there and help them out. You did like a 360 there. And this is one of those things where like this CGC is never going to be able to catch up to the 2801. So if the 2801 runs, he's always going to be able to get away. And then not that that M44 would have made a difference in the game, but you always got to look and see where your weaknesses are in terms of your defense. And if you have a light tank sort of streaking through the middle, get someplace where you can pick them up. He's going to be able to kill that CGC, probably. He's going to cross in front of you, I think, if you wait back where you were. You do a lot of this turning around, this indecisions of where I should go. He'll be on your left. Right there, right there, right there, right now. There you go.
It's a trap!
At least you set him on fire. So it's one of those things where try to read where they're going and look at the terrain and decide where they're going to be crossing into gaps, because there's a lot of times where you can get shots by simply looking at where they're going and then just waiting for them. You've got a lot of sort of indecision. See how this 3485 is like half back? So you did it again. You like drove partway down here and then you turned around. So my point is, during that time where you stopped right there, you got no new information. Nobody was lit. Nothing happened. But you're basically hiding behind your artillery right now. And not that you necessarily have to be in front of them, but you should be someplace where if somebody pushes out artillery, somebody just happens to drive into that artillery, that you're in a position where you could see them coming in. And it's the same thing. It's like you've got no eyes on cap, but you're sitting in this place now that's off to the side. It's a little bit inconsequential. And then so you're driving back, but it's most likely that these guys are pushing this Type 58 at this point. So it's something to keep in mind. So there's probably not going to be anybody else over here. They're going to be over here. This AT-15A is eventually going to crest this ridge over here and spot this guy. And this guy is still probably in the same general area in a position to shoot over here. You're not really in a good position to push them, but you can counter that AT-15A from pushing up there by basically spawning them from behind. And then it just depends on where their Type 58 decided that he would relocate to. So now you're actually being decisive though, and you're actually driving someplace, and that's always a good thing. Okay, until you slow down right there. I mean, there's no reason why you can't peek out over here. Like, yeah, look over here first, because of the Type 58 could easily be right there. Look, there he is. Yeah, and so this is another thing about the map. So you have to understand that you're never going to have a good shot in that guy until you get over by where your Type 58 is. See where this guy is going? That's where you want to go. So what you want to do is you want to get yourself in a position where this AT-15A, in order to get to your Type 58, has to cross your line of fire. And so what you can do is you can go over here, but when you go over here, you have to be careful, right? Because that Type 58 can just come down and shoot you over there. Look over there! I mean, he's ignoring you too, which is fantastic, but... Okay. Shoot the AT-15A. Oh my god, shoot the AT-15A! So what you want to be able to do is... No, I guess it doesn't really matter. When you have shots, like that guy was at full health, when you have shots that are easy, I guess you would say, you want to make sure that you can take them.
It's a trap!
Your bishop is kind of out of range right now. That type is one shot to you. Ideally, you don't want to take damage from the type, because so you have 200 health, and that's maybe enough to take a shot from the AT-15A, because you might need to cross an open plain in order to get to the AT-15A. The bishop is probably in range of the AT-15A, but not of the type. And then you want to be careful, like you should peek up there first before you go around on this side, because you don't know, all that you really know is that the AT-15A is really slow, so he's not going to move that far, but you want to be careful about what that type is doing. And you're not really worried about the bishop. The bishop is not really in danger, because it's not like the...
It's a trap!
LOL. And then you can just kind of hang out where you're at, wait for yourself to drop spot, and then just go up into any of these bushes over here, because you know the AT-15A is over there. The AT-15A is not a fast tank. It's not going to be able to catch up to you. All you got to do is just poke up, find out where it is, and then go down again. So what you want to do is you want to avoid big gaps of time where he's not lit, where he can move someplace where you can't expect, you know? And so that's sort of what you want to be able to do in this situation. And so now you always have to be thinking about the time, right? So any amount of time, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, where he's not lit, he can be moving someplace. And so that's why, particularly for if you're in a really fast tank and he's in a really slow tank, I like to keep tabs on him. just so that they can't move very far. Otherwise, it's like if you wait too long, if you wait 2 minutes, if you wait 3 minutes, you might turn a corner suddenly and he's there, because you know after a certain amount of time he can be anywhere. And so while this applies, it's easy to think about as it applies to slow tanks. You also have to think about how this applies to faster tanks as well. If you're the fastest tank on the map, that always gives you an advantage in the late game, because you can control the engagements, you can control the distance, you can control the spotting in most cases. So this is a good situation for you, but you need to keep tabs on where he's at, because where he was at, given the time that he wasn't lit, like if you were just pushing through this town, he could be right here by now, right? And you don't know. And so you want to be careful on this particular approach, because you always want to have an exit route. Like if he was right there, you know, what would I do? And so that's why I tend to like to be either close to buildings, close to a ridge where you can just drop down over the side, sort of thing. And that's why I was saying where you were at when you were over here and you knew that he was still somewhere in this area, you want to be able to just kind of peek up there once you drop spot.
It's a trap!
And this guy is not like some super pro player. He is turning though. He is turning towards your bishop. So yeah, go over to the left and be careful. There you go. And then you're behind him and win. And then just hope that your bishop doesn't shoot you. Well, take your time. Just zoom in. Like you can shoot the drive wheel right now. Like where you're shooting is not good. And then just shoot the engine deck. And then see how it's sloped? He's on a slightly higher ground than you, so you're shooting into the engine deck now, which is good. But at this point, just go into sniper mode and just shoot him. Lol. GG. But yeah, so whenever you have that fast tank versus slow tank dynamic, try to keep tabs on him. I mean, as long as it's not going to get you killed. If he's sitting there hawking this hill, right, and there's no bushes for you to jump up into, then maybe you don't want to peek. But you do kind of want to keep tabs on him if you can. Like what I would have done is, or what I would have tried to do is try to light him from that same area that you killed the Type 58. And if he was still in this area, which presumably he was, then you at that point just drive away, come back over here, take a peek over on this side, right, and you'll be able to light him. And then, you know, at that point your bishop was already close enough where it would have been able to shoot him anyways, although that guy looked like he was struggling a little bit to shoot him. But I like to try to be able to keep tabs on those guys so that they don't move very far where I'm not exactly sure where they're at, because the more that they're unlit at that point, the more dangerous it becomes, because you don't know where they are. And so these are the stats. So I felt like, I mean, obviously you did a good job because you did 1500 damage in a light tank, although a lot of it was that AT-15A at the end. Like half of it was the AT-15A at the end. But like you were a little bit too passive in the beginning, like when that T-3485, no, that was a Type 58 that was in front of you on that rock in that south west side. Like I really felt like you were there, but you weren't really needed there. And if they pushed through in a more organized fashion, you guys probably would have both died. You had some fire support from, I think it was a T-3485 behind you. And then also you saw that 2801 cut down the middle behind you and get through to the backside. And this 3485 could have gone back and gotten him as well. But you didn't really have a whole lot to do on that side anyway, so you could have gone back and gotten him. And then other than that, it's really just try to control the range at which the engagements that you're in are received. So like for example, you remember when that 2801 was driving in, like people drive in relatively predictable paths. Like you can tell that he wanted to drive up into that western area at some point. So just set up and wait for him to get in there, and then have your shots ready. You had a lot of sort of indecisions about where to go, and then at the end game where you're, you know, I think it was the same 3485 was coming through the middle towards their Type 58. I think it was a good job. It was a good decision for you to link up with him and go after the Type 58. So GG.